that he gives it to try to disguise it, to make the people think that they're eating something other than the divinely prohibited flesh. But yet, that's exactly what we're eating. He puts it in many and various byproducts. He puts it even in the items that we use to cleanse ourselves. He puts it in soap, and he puts it in toothpaste. And it still has power to harm us because of the microscopic nature of this larvae, this worm, which comes alive within the body of the human being. And so we have to be very, very careful, brother, about what we eat, because this is where most of our ailments are coming from. This is where most of our illnesses are coming from. It is the food and the drinks that we are consuming on a regular basis. If you, I would recommend to people to really read the book of Daniel and read about Daniel and understand why his name was changed, and understand why the individual Ananiah and Shadrach and Mishael, why their names were changed to Meshach and Abednego. Understand why these names were changed, and understand that you're not reading about some historical figures who this happened to. You're reading about yourself. We are the people depicted in the scripture who have had our names changed and had our identity changed. And then we were asked or pushed into a situation where we were required to eat the king's meat and to drink his wine. But if you read the story in the book of Daniel, you'll see that those brothers, Daniel, were wise enough to say, we don't want the king's meat. Just give us the pulses. Just give us the beans and give us the drink of water. We don't want the wine, the strong wine. And when, after a period of time, they had been eating the beans or the pulses and drinking the water, and others were eating the king's meat and drinking the wine, when there was a comparison made in the book of Daniel between the condition of the two sets of people, you saw that Daniel and his brothers were absolutely fit and healthy, looking beautiful, shiny faces, and they were well because they continued to eat the food that was native to them, the natural vegetables, the beans, and drinking the water from the earth, as opposed to eating the king's meat and drinking the strong wine. And so, beloved brothers and sisters, I would advise all of us to really take the time to read labels, to stop eating processed food. Did you know that the human body cannot process already processed food? It is important to eat natural food, fruit and vegetables, to eat wholemeal bread, and to eat natural substances that grows from our earth, and to try our very best not to put anything inside of our body that we don't know what it is. When you go to the shop and you look at these cans and these packagings that have all these various E numbers, and we don't know what they are, yet we will just go and put them into our system. This is the reason, beloved brothers and sisters, why we are ill. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that he received this beautiful revelation from Master Farad Muhammad called How to Eat to Live. And there are two books, Book 1 and Book 2, which are available. If you would check out the Nation of Islam's website, www.noi.org, or go onto the Final Call website, finalcall.com, and you can search and you can find the availability of these books. And you should really purchase them, because they are lifesavers in that they give you a methodology of how to eat to live, how to preserve your life, especially in this day and time when we are facing all manner of health challenges because of the nature of the environments in which we live and the nature of the poison food that we are forced to consume. The very water that we drink now is contaminated, and you can hardly find anything to eat that's not in one way or another poison. And so the principle, one of the beautiful principles involved in How to Eat to Live, is to leave a 24-hour gap between meals, so that you don't put poison on top of poison, but you allow poison to leave your body, to be flushed from the body before you put that next meal in, 24 hours. And so we eat one meal a day, And it's a tremendous science, brothers and sisters. When you look at the members of the Nation of Islam, you'll see a difference in us to the general run-of-the-mill person that you will meet on a daily basis. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is 77 years old. And when you look at that beautiful man, he sometimes looks like a man who may be in his mid-40s and around that kind of age. Because these teachings, they transform human life. Not only do they keep you looking young, but in truth, if you really applied it, and some of our people are actually eating one meal every other day, some people are actually on one meal every 3 days, and this may sound crazy and impossible, but it really isn't. And we actually have the ability today, if we are courageous enough, to actually begin to reverse the aging process. We don't have to grow old and decrepit. We don't have to be mashed up once we reach 40 and 50 and 60. We really don't, brothers and sisters. And it's time that we began to really use our God-given intelligence and start to prevent ourselves from becoming ill, so that these pharmaceutical companies and these doctors can wax rich from our illnesses and our ultimate untimely deaths. Let us think about what we're eating, because it's not what you think. It's not some bug just flying around just loosely and, oh, I just don't know why I feel this way. I just don't know why I'm just ill like this. I guarantee you, brothers and sisters, there's no abracadabra. You need to really look into what it is that you're putting inside of your mouth and inside of your stomach. And if you would just take the time to be more careful about what you eat, you will begin to have life, and you would have life in more abundance. It's really as simple as that, but we have to do that for ourselves. Nobody can do it for us.
Hello and welcome to Health for a Lifetime. I'm your host, Don McIntosh, and today I'm delighted to have Dr. David DeRose with us from what? Oklahoma, the Lifestyle Center of America?
That's exactly right. That's home for me. Has been for about 4 years.
Now, I drove down there recently and I saw these signs for the Chickasaw Nation. What's that all about?
Well, actually, Oklahoma used to be called Indian Territories. So we have very deep roots in Native American traditions and Native American peoples. A number of our staff members have Native American roots. One of our board members I know has Native American roots. So it's something that's really part and parcel of Oklahoma.
Not just that, many different places. Of course, up the road a little bit, I drove through a town called Wichita, which is an Indian name, and the so-called Chisholm Trail with Jesse Chisholm, who spoke about 14 or 15 different Indian dialects. The only reason I mention that is because today we're going to be talking about Native American health practices, and I know that there may be many Native Americans watching 3ABN in those areas, and this will be something, of course, especially interesting to them, but I think that it can benefit the rest of us too, I hope. You've published something on this, or you've given some talks on this subject?
Actually, we presented a paper at the American Public Health Association meeting. It's the largest meeting of public health and preventive medicine professionals. Each year, this meeting takes place, and in 1999, in Chicago, we presented a paper dealing with 2 Native Americans who came through our program. One of them was a tribal leader. Both he and his wife had diabetes. He also had blood pressure problems, cholesterol problems. Miraculous things happened when he came through our program at the Lifestyle Center of America. He is just one of probably some now 50 or 60 Native Americans who've come through our program. And as I've worked with Native Americans, as I've traveled to some of the reservations and presented talks, including just recently was out in Arizona speaking to the medical staff of one of the Indian Health Service hospitals, they're excited about what scientific research is showing that really says that the program that God gave us in His Word is something that ironically to some people, Native Americans had many insights into before they even knew about the Bible.
So you're suggesting that maybe their health practices not only are scientific when they look at the roots of them. They also have a biblical basis.
That's right. And this shocks people, Don, I got to tell you, because, you know, in public health circles, when you say Native Americans, you know what they think? They don't think health. They think disease. They think alcoholism. They think diabetes. They think, I mean, diabetes in Native Americans, I mean, this is a huge problem. But what we're finding at the Lifestyle Center of America, when Native Americans go through our program, they can reverse their diabetes. What the research is showing is that 100 years ago, well, let me give you an example.
Okay.
Have you heard of the Pima Indians in Arizona?
I haven't. But
okay, that's okay.
What's it called again?
The Pima Indians.
Pima.
The Pima Indians are probably the most well-studied population group in the world when it comes to diabetes. You should have, but that's okay. I mean, I know it's a little out of your field.
Okay.
In fact, our National Institutes for Health, I mean, for those of our viewers that don't realize this is the big research arm of our government. They fund research. They do their own research based there in the Washington, D.C. area. They have a branch of the National Institutes of Health in Phoenix, Arizona.
Studying this group.
Studying this group in particular. What they've found in looking at records over the last 100 years, back around the turn of the century, around 1900, one case of diabetes among Pima Indians.
Wow, so some big changes came from some reason.
In the 1940s,
how many?
21 cases. Today, 50% of Pima Indians over 35 have diabetes.
Amazing.
If we look at the historical records, Don, Native Americans seem to have excellent health before European influence, and they were also following a program that I believe is very, very similar to the kind of program that God wants us to follow today to optimize our health. And it wasn't because Native Americans were reading the Bible.
So how did they get this? I mean, some Christians out there, or different people that are Christian, and also scientific type people are saying, wait a minute, it's one thing to say that they have these diseases that have come because of Western lifestyle, but it's quite another to say that they had some kind of divine revelation that came. How can you make a case for that?
To me, the interesting thing is that Native Americans traditionally have had several very important roots in their culture. One is a strong sense of respect for the Creator and for creation. A very healthy respect for their bodies and for all of nature.
And the environment.
And the environment, yes, all of nature. The laws that God has given us in the Bible have that same respect throughout. I mean, God is desiring to help us to optimize this blessing of life that He's given us. And even, to me, the argument I make, Don, the argument I say to people is, they say, look it, even if Native Americans didn't have a divine revelation of this, and some would argue that. I mean, some Native Americans would say, look it, I mean, God was leading our people, even though we didn't have a Bible. And I believe that God does speak through nature, and He communicates in other ways, although the perfect revelation is clearly through His Son and through His Word. He has been communicating through His Spirit, through revelation. In fact, the book of Romans, right? Romans 1. It says that everyone's guiltless because God has revealed His character where?
Everywhere, in nature.
Yeah, in nature, in what He's created. So here's the argument I make. I mean, regardless of where it comes from, Native Americans traditionally seem to have some insights into optimal, healthful living practices. Now, here's the bottom line. This is exciting, really exciting. People today, when I work with them, they say, Dr. DeRose, it's not going to work for me. I got bad genetics. My dad had this, my mom had this, my grandfather had this. I can't help it. I'm going to get diabetes, heart disease, I'm going to have amputations, dialysis, stroke, whatever. Native Americans show us that even in a people group that is predisposed to disease, like the Pima Indians, they didn't have that kind of disease in 1900 on their more traditional lifestyle. It had changed even by that time. Here's the point. No matter what genetic hand you've got, lifestyle can make a tremendous difference. And there is ongoing research in Native Americans, including our work at the Lifestyle Center of America, that says even if you're not a Native American, if you've got a lousy hand genetically dealt to you,
you can change.
You can change it. And that's the amazing thing. And Native American practices, these are things, many of them. Now, I'm not, putting my seal of approval on everything that was done by any Native American tribe.
You're not going to go out and get dream catchers and all the other stuff, even though...
Well, I'm not here to